Bill Maher is someone who I view as the quintessential out-of-touch elite who likes to propose solutions to problems he thinks ordinary Americans face, when in actuality, he doesn't know what problems we face because he lives in an elitist bubble. Now, the good thing about Bill Maher is that presumably he does seem genuinely interested in finding out what Americans actually care about and what we want. And a constant theme on his show, recently anyways, is that he's been wondering why the electorate just didn't go for Hillary Clinton in 2016 and why millennials often stay home. But the problem is, even though he's curious about these things, he never actually talks with ordinary Americans. He rarely brings on millennials or actual progressives on his show, and instead, he just brings on other rich elites and politicians, and then they'll all proceed to yell at us for not falling in line, rather than actually listening to what we have to say. But recently, he did demonstrate that he is willing to listen to so-called average Americans, and he brought Ken Bone on his show. So if you remember Ken Bone, he appeared at a debate, and the goal of bringing Ken Bone on the show was to talk to someone who was an undecided voter and figure out why he was torn between Clinton and Trump. Now, Bill Maher referred to Ken Bone as someone that was gettable for the Democratic Party, and while people like Ken Bone are important, Bill Maher doesn't realize that before the Democratic Party tries to win over centrist voters like Ken Bone, they need to appeal to their own base, because we learned in 2016 that left-wing voters aren't going to automatically support Democrats no matter what, because the party has moved so far to the center-right that there's now a large portion of the electorate that was formerly the party's core base that they've abandoned in an attempt to court centrist and right-wing voters, and that's not working out for them. But nonetheless, I still do give him credit for trying to reach out to someone that is at least not in one of his elitist bubbles, but rather than talking to more individual or ordinary voters, he decided to bring on more of his rich friends to Richsplain American politics to all of us peasants. Now, I personally had a ton of problems with Bill Maher's latest episode. I mean, first of all, his panel literally took the time to talk about the so-called slopification of America, where Americans dress badly and don't take pride in the way that they look. Now, he did, to be fair, bring on someone who was a fashion expert who was, I believe, the host of Project Runway. But I mean, it's still an out-of-touch statement to make. Most Americans don't even have $500 in savings in the bank account, so they're not going to purchase fucking suits that look fancy. They don't care about that. They care about feeding their children. So I mean, if you want to appear out of touch, that's one really great way to do it. But that wasn't even the worst part of this panel, because they talked about how the Democratic Party can unite their base who are currently divided, and the conversation was just hilariously ironic.
What do you think the Democrats should do to repair this, or should they repair it?
Do you mean to repair the rift between?
Yes.
I think we should stop thinking about Bernie Sanders. I would really love to stop thinking about him. I mean, I know you found him kind of benign. I did not find him benign. I found him to be an unbelievably irritating, narcissistic old man. And I also kept thinking, like, who leaves New York when they're 18? Okay? I mean, that's who you have there. Like, when you look around and think, no, I can't make it. I'm going to Vermont.
That was Fran Lebowitz. She called Bernie Sanders a narcissistic old man, and my only response to that is, she's a Hillary Clinton supporter. A Hillary Clinton supporter is calling Bernie Sanders a narcissistic old man. I don't need to say anything else about that clip, but it gets even worse, if you could believe it.
I think we should please forget about Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. This is a battle that's over. It's over.
I agree.
And I also think there's this problem of the rift in the left, where there's a section of the left that wants the purest, more snowy than driven snow candidate.
Yes.
Snowflakier than the snowflakiest snowflake.
Right. Yeah.
That's what they want. And that's not only a problem in this country. It's a problem in England, where they want Jeremy Corbyn, who represents that ideal of leftiness, which can't possibly be elected. Or in France, the Mélenchon people who don't want to vote for Macron because he's not purely left enough. And what all this does is to drive a wedge through which the right can come. And there's something you said on this show a few months ago that I have to tell you, I have been quoting, Bill. Wow. Yeah. You said that we have to learn to distinguish between an imperfect friend and a deadly enemy.
Yes.
So Salman Rushdie here says that there's a section of the left that wants the purest of the pure, the snowflakiest of the snowflakiest, and he says that this is a problem in England as well, where the left really wants Jeremy Corbyn, but, quote, that ideal of leftiness can't possibly be elected. Did you not see what happened in the last election in the UK? Theresa May called an election because she wanted to consolidate power and improve her party's standing in Parliament, and she lost seats. It was a political upset. So you're telling me that Jeremy Corbyn can't win after you just witnessed what happened in the UK, where Jeremy Corbyn basically proved all of his naysayers wrong? Are you seriously going to argue that right now? I mean, it's like these people are living in an alternate universe. Progressive ideas are popular. And really, what Rushdie is saying here is that we shouldn't have standards. That's really what he's saying. Because when you have standards and dare to expect politicians in a democracy to represent you, then you end up dividing the left and splitting the vote and allowing conservatives to win. But when the Democratic Party moved to the right and became more neoliberal, that's what led to them losing more than 1,000 seats in legislatures across the country. Obama won in a landslide when he ran as a progressive, and as he moved more and more to the right once he was elected, Democrats began to lose again. I mean, the same thing keeps happening, and they don't pick up on the pattern. So the Democratic Party has been ignoring their base for decades, ever since the Reagan Revolution, when they tried to compete with Republicans by moving more to the right. And finally, when progressives step up and say, hey, we're here, you should represent us because we're not coming out to support you because you're not putting forward policies that we care about, well, then all these neoliberal centrist Democrats come out and say, well, you should stop having standards. You should stop telling them to move back to the left. When them moving to the right is what led to these defeats. So, I mean, I can't comprehend why they seem genuinely interested in finding out how Republicans came to power and how a demagogue like Donald Trump came to power, but yet they don't want to listen to what we have to say. Bill, if you honestly care about why the Democratic Party is not in power when you have a party as crazy and extremist as the Republicans, you need to bring more progressives on your show and actually listen and not just reinforce all of the bad decisions that Democrats have made throughout the years and put yourself in an echo chamber, because that's not a way that you're going to actually help political dialogue in this country. If you claim to be a left-winger, then actually speak with left-wingers. You keep bringing on centrists. When was the last time you brought a true progressive on your program? I honestly can't remember. You keep bringing on media shills who attack Bernie Sanders and say that the Democratic Party is doing everything right and they don't need to change or reform anything when they keep losing. Again, you guys are the ones who have been in control and you've been losing, but yet you say that us having standards is what is going to lead to the Democratic Party losing? Get the fuck out of here. That's just stupidity right there. So if Bill Maher honestly cares about winning and how the Democratic Party can defeat extremists like Republicans, then why don't you actually invite a progressive on the show, like Cenk Uygur, Kyle Kulinski, and speak with them, rather than just reinforcing everything that you think you already know by bringing on people in your elitist bubble that agree with you.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.